It's been a while since I did a vintage video. I've been doing a lot more modern and some PSA reveals and things like that. But if you've been watching this channel for a while, you know that my favorite cards are the ones from the pre-war era, specifically the 30s and earlier. And I think this is going to be a really, really great video. I've got a mail day here that I couldn't be more excited about. I'll give you a little maybe glimpse into it. I've been learning a lot about the West Indies cricket. This book here, Beyond a Boundary by C.L.R. James, has been actually called by some the greatest book about sports of all time. But really an incredible book. I'm not even quite a quarter way into it, but just reading so much about the history of cricket in the West Indies. And really, if you haven't read the book, it's just fantastic. It gets into race and class and imperialism and colonialism and life in the West Indies. And, you know, I'm not, like I said, I'm only about 80 pages in, but the author, James, is talking about Leary Constantine, who was, you know, one of the greatest players of the 1930s. And just really hearing about this guy when he was just getting started is pretty incredible. And learning about the history, I mean, the page I'm on right now, he's just talking about Trumper and Bradman, Grace, Ranji. Yeah, it's a really cool book. Spawforth, O'Reilly, George Headley. Those of you that have heard of George Headley, also known as the Black Bradman, but that's not really fair, right? Like, you know, just an unbelievable batter in his own right. And Constantine and Headley are both in the Hall of Fame, the only two West Indies players from this era in the Hall of Fame. So that's a little preview of this mail day here, which I will open up in just a second. All right, so this package starts with a couple of 1965 Scanlon's cards. These are, I wouldn't call them rare, but they are, it's hard to find specific cards that you're looking for. If you look on eBay, especially the Australian eBay, you'll see that some of these cards are listed, so it's not like they're impossible to find. But Lance Gibbs, speaking of West Indies, he was a truly tremendous player, one of the Hall of Famers. This is not a flawless copy by any means, but this is my earliest Gibbs card. So I was happy to pick that up. And also a Jeffrey Boycott. I believe this is his rookie. Again, I guess he was about 25 when this card was made. So not a bad start. Next up, we've got some Ranjis. I believe that's what's in here, which I will open now. All right, we've got a stack here. I think it is 4 different cards. Sorry for the lighting here. I've got bad shadows. Okay, so we've got a Ranji Ogden's here, and I am actually not as well versed in these as I wish I were, but I think these are both kind of 2 of the more common issues from like the 1901, 1902 era of Ogden's. Yeah, this is the Ogden Series A. This one here is the Ogden Series D. I assume that most viewers probably know who Ranji is, but with Grace, W.G. Grace, you know, one of the greatest batters, really of the first 50 years of cricket, right? So like before Jack Hobbs, it was really Grace and Ranji who were, you know, the elite batters in the world. So cool to get those. This is a card I most certainly did not have. That's a really nice one. Plain back. Very cool. And then this one's super neat. This is Prince Ranjitsinhji. And this is the F series, which I think is a bit of a more rare Ranji card. So very cool. But this is really the main event. I mentioned earlier about the greats from the West Indies, and they did not have many cards from the 1930s to feature any West Indies players. So earlier on my channel, I showed a 1933 team card of the West Indies. At the time, I thought that was actually George Headley's earliest card. I wasn't aware of any Constantine cards, Larry Constantine. So what we're going to get to here is an all 1930s West Indies stack. All right, with no further ado, we've got Barrow. And I guess I should talk a little bit about the set. So this is a very, 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 very rare set from Brisbane, Australia. This is Morrows, which this was a biscuit company. I guess they made chocolates too. But this is the 1930 West Indies team set. There were 16 cards in this series. But I'll actually show in a second the quote-unquote Cricket Bible, which was published in the 1980s, Cricket Card Bible. Only knew of one card in this whole set. So that's how rare these were, that like the best knowledge was that there was only one card that had been discovered from this set. So the fact that I've got more than one here, I feel pretty lucky to have gotten my hands on these, especially when you see the next card here. So, this is my first time laying eyes on this card. That is a really, really beautiful card. Definitely the rarest card that I own, I would say. And this is one that, this package came from Stephen Fleming. So, Stephen, thank you for giving me the opportunity to buy these from you. I told Stephen a few months back, I said, getting a Constantine and a Headley from the 1930s was like my bucket list, like top of the list for me. And Stephen kind of laughed me off and said, like, good luck. But for some reason, I don't know, out of the goodness of his heart, or he was just getting tired of not completing the set. I think he only had these 4 cards of the 16 after searching for a long time. He decided to offer them up to sale for me. And these are probably my favorite cards in my whole collection now. So, yeah, I'm just pretty stunned. I don't know how to estimate how many of these might be in the world. I might ask Stephen what his estimate is, but I would guess, probably less than 10 of these are even known of each card. That is really cool. And then the other rookie card that I was hoping at some point to track down, George Headley. So Headley's career average was over 60. One of the top batters of all time. And I don't think it can be overstated how much racial and socioeconomic pressure that these guys were under, going overseas and playing with all-white crowds and being heckled and treated as second-class citizens, or perhaps even lower than that. Like we talk a lot about Jackie Robinson in the U.S., and rightly so. But these guys had to endure it too, and they went to different continents. At least the baseball players in the early, folks that were breaking the color barriers here were in their home countries, but these folks were traveling overseas, and it wasn't like they were on private jets, taking boats overseas and still going out and getting on the pitch and playing their hearts out and scoring 60, 70. Larry Constantine is considered one of the greatest all-rounders of all time, so he was one of the better batters and better bowlers of the age. So again, I'm kind of speechless, guys. I just feel pretty amazed. I'm reading a book about this era from one of their contemporaries. C.L.R. James spent a lot of time with these guys, and I'm sure that all these names that I'm seeing now, Scott and Burkett, etc., will come up. Pretty cool indeed.